Hey everyone, and welcome back to the deep dive. We all want to be the best versions of ourselves, right?
Of course, it's a universal goal.
Absolutely. And today we are taking a deep dive into a popular YouTube podcast called Podcast and Chill.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they did an episode about becoming our best selves. And,
Okay.
it's not just about vague self-help stuff, the usual mantras.
Right.
It's really about practical steps. And
I like that.
yeah. What I really loved is they actually wove research into their points.
Oh, that's cool. So they backed up what they were saying.
Exactly. So it's not just like, oh, this is a good idea.
Yeah.
There's actual science behind some of these things.
Which is really convincing.
Totally. Like they talked about small wins and how they impact motivation and
Oh, yeah. That's a big one.
it is. And they explained it so well, like how small victories trigger dopamine.
Right. Which makes us feel good.
And that makes us want to keep going.
It's like this cycle, you know?
Yeah, a positive feedback loop.
Yeah. You get a small win, you feel good, and then you're more likely to go for the next one.
Exactly. And they talked about how each win kind of reinforces our belief in ourselves.
Which researchers call self-efficacy.
Right. That's a good one. And so it's like,
Instead of being overwhelmed by this huge goal, you just
right.
break it down into smaller steps. You celebrate those little milestones,
Yeah,
and you build momentum.
that's a great point. It's like
Yeah.
instead of trying to climb Mount Everest all at once,
Right.
you just focus on reaching base camp first.
Yeah. Get to that first checkpoint,
And then the next one and the next one.
and each step kind of builds your confidence.
Exactly. So it's
Yeah.
all about that sense of progress,
Mm. Totally. Which brings us to another thing that Podcast and Chill emphasize, self-reflection.
Oh, yeah, that's huge.
And they argued that it's really crucial for understanding what's holding us back.
Okay, see, this is where I get tripped up sometimes.
Really? How so?
Well, I love reflecting, journaling, all that, but
Mm.
sometimes I can get kind of stuck in my own head,
Yeah, I see.
overthinking everything instead of actually taking action.
So it's like finding that balance.
Yeah, exactly. Like, how do
Yeah.
we balance the reflection with actually doing the things?
That's a great question. And to be honest, it's something that Podcast and Chill address too.
Okay, good. I'm not alone.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
They really emphasize that reflection shouldn't be about dwelling on the past
Right.
or like getting bogged down in negativity.
Uh.
It's about taking a step back, like analyzing your actions,
Uh-huh.
your behaviors, and seeing if there are any patterns that are, hindering your growth.
So it's more about gaining clarity, understanding.
Exactly. Not beating yourself up over past mistakes.
Got it, got it.
In fact, they even mentioned a study from Harvard
Oh, wow.
where researchers found that people who regularly reflect on their actions actually tend to make better decisions.
Interesting.
But, and here's the key, they didn't just reflect generally,
Right.
they focused on specific actions, like analyzing what worked, what didn't, and why.
So it was targeted reflection.
Yes, exactly. And that led to increased self-awareness.
Which then led to better decisions.
Right. It's like, imagine you messed up a presentation
Yeah, been there.
and you ask yourself, why? Was I unprepared? Did I let my nerves get the better of me?
Right. You break it down.
And by doing that, you gain these insights that can help you avoid making the same mistake again.
Makes sense.
So reflection can really be a tool for growth.
Instead of self-criticism?
Yes.
Exactly. Okay, so we've got self-reflection for clarity.
Yes.
We've got small wins for momentum.
Yes.
What about setting goals? That feels like a big one.
It is. And Podcast and Chill actually talked about that too.
Okay, good.
And they pointed out a common mistake,
Which is,
setting unrealistic goals.
ooh, yeah, I've been there.
Like, I want to be a millionaire by next year kind of thing.
Right. Those big, audacious goals.
Exactly. They can actually be counterproductive because, we inevitably fall short of those sky-high expectations.
And that can be really discouraging.
It can lead to self-doubt, and you might just give up altogether.
So what's the alternative?
Well, Podcast and Chill suggests breaking down those big goals
Okay,
into smaller, more achievable steps.
that makes sense.
Yeah, like they use the example of getting healthier. Instead of this vague idea of being healthier, they said, start with something specific,
Yeah.
like drinking more water every day.
Yeah, that's manageable.
It is. It's a simple change, but it can have a ripple effect.
On your overall well-being.
Exactly. And that's where the research on small wins comes back in.
Okay, yeah.
Because by achieving those smaller goals,
Right.
we get that dopamine, we build confidence, we create momentum.
It all ties together.
It does. In fact, they even mentioned a study where Simply walking for 10 minutes a day,
10 minutes.
yeah, just 10 minutes, it led to some significant long-term health improvements.
Wow. So small changes.
Can lead to remarkable results.
I love that. Okay, but let's be real for a second.
Okay, sure.
Even with small steps and positive thinking,
Sure.
self-doubt can still creep in.
Oh, absolutely. It happens to everyone.
We've talked about reflecting on past actions.
Right.
But what about those doubts about our abilities? Our worthiness, our potential?
Like that inner critic.
Yeah,
That voice that's always saying, you're not good enough.
that's a really important point. And actually, Podcast and Chill dedicated a good chunk of their episode to this.
They did. Okay, good.
They talked about fear being a big thing that holds us back.
Fear, huh?
Yeah. They even mentioned a study
Ooh.
from the University of California that found fear of failure
Okay.
to be one of the most significant factors that prevents people from achieving their goals.
Wow, that's powerful.
It is, isn't it?
So how do we overcome that fear then? How do we silence that inner critic?
Well, one key takeaway from Podcast and Chill is that we need to shift our perspective on mistakes.
Okay.
So instead of seeing them as setbacks,
Or like proof that we're not good enough?
yeah,
We need to reframe them.
yeah.
Valuable learning opportunities.
Oh, okay. So it's not about being perfect,
Not at all.
but about embracing the process.
Exactly. Knowing that we're going to mess up along the way.
And that's okay.
It's more than okay, it's expected.
That's a good point.
They actually used a really great analogy.
What's that?
They talked about learning to ride a bike.
Okay.
You're not going to just hop on and be perfect.
All right, you're going to
You're
fall.
going to scrape your knees.
Maybe shed a few tears.
Maybe. Yeah. But
Right.
each fall teaches you something.
You adjust.
You try a different approach.
And eventually you get it.
You're cruising down the street.
I love that analogy.
It's a good one, right?
Yeah. So instead of fearing failure, we need to just accept it.
As part of the process.
That's part of learning.
Exactly. And that brings us to this idea of a growth mindset.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
Podcast and Chill really emphasize this.
Okay.
It's about believing in our ability to learn and improve.
Regardless of past setbacks.
Exactly. So instead of saying, I'm bad at math,
Right.
you say, I'm not good at math yet.
Yet. That's the key word.
It is. It's about recognizing that our abilities aren't fixed.
Okay.
They can be developed.
through effort and dedication.
And there's actually research from Stanford that backs this up.
Oh, wow.
They found that people with growth mindsets
Yeah,
are more likely to achieve their goals.
that makes sense.
And they bounce back from challenges better.
Because they see obstacles as opportunities.
Exactly. Not roadblocks.
So it's like, okay, I hit a snag, but I'm going to figure this out
I'm going to learn from this.
and come back stronger.
Exactly. It's about resilience, belief in yourself,
And that's what fuels this whole journey.
of becoming the best version of yourself.
I love that. It's funny, we often think of learning as something we do in school or like for a specific job skill.
Right.
But Podcast and Chill really got me thinking about continuous learning in a different way.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Not just for practical reasons, but for
Mhm.
personal growth and like well-being,
Yeah, I like that.
like making learning a lifelong pursuit.
That's a great way to put it.
And they had some really cool research to back this up.
Oh, really? Like what?
Well, they mentioned this study from the American Psychological Association,
Okay.
and it found that people who are constantly learning
Yeah.
tend to be happier
Oh, wow.
and more fulfilled.
So it's like learning keeps our minds engaged.
Right. And our spirits high.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that.
Me too.
Like, whenever I try something new,
Yeah.
whether it's a cooking class or learning a new language,
Uh-huh.
I just feel this sense of accomplishment.
Yeah, it's like you're expanding your horizons.
Totally. It's not even just about the knowledge itself. It's
Mhm.
the process of learning.
Yeah. Challenging yourself, getting out of your comfort zone.
Exactly. And there's even research suggesting it's good for our brains as we age.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They talked about a study from the University of Texas
Okay.
linking lifelong learning to a reduced risk of cognitive decline.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So learning can make us happier and protect our brains.
Right. It's pretty motivating.
It is. It makes you think about all the ways we can learn every day.
Totally. And it doesn't have to be formal education, right?
No, not at all.
It could be reading a book,
Yeah?
watching a documentary.
Or even just talking to someone with a different perspective.
That's a good point. Okay, but Podcast and Chill also talked about another important thing.
What's that?
The people we surround ourselves with.
Oh, yeah, that's huge.
They emphasize the power of positive influences.
And they even quoted that saying,
Which one?
you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that one.
You know, the exact science might be debatable,
Sure.
but the idea is so true.
Our social circles really impact us.
Big time. They affect our thoughts, our behaviors, our growth.
It's like if you're always around negativity,
Yeah,
it's going to be harder to stay motivated.
absolutely. But if you've got those supportive people,
Those encouraging, growth-oriented people,
so it's like having a cheerleading squad.
pushing you to be your best,
Exactly. They celebrate your wins,
offer support during setbacks.
inspire you to reach higher.
They're your allies on this journey.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Podcast and Chill also pointed out
Yeah.
that sometimes
Yeah.
we might need to reevaluate our relationships.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
It can be, but it's important.
To be mindful of the energy we allow in our lives,
Exactly. We need to make sure those close to us are lifting us up.
not dragging us down.
Exactly. So surrounding ourselves with the right people is key.
It's a big part of becoming our best selves.
For sure. It's all connected, you know?
It really is. Okay, so we're back, and I'm ready to tackle the big question here.
Okay, cheers.
We've talked about self-reflection and goal setting and overcoming fear, continuous learning, surrounding ourselves with great people.
Right.
But, like, what does it all actually mean? You know?
What do you mean?
What does it actually mean to be the best version of ourselves?
You know, it's interesting because Podcast and Chill never actually defines the best version.
Hmm.
And I kind of think that's on purpose.
What do you mean?
It's not like a destination or
Yeah.
like a checklist you can just tick off.
Okay.
More of a journey, you know?
So it's not about reaching some perfect state of being,
No, not at all.
but more about constantly growing, evolving.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it so exciting, I think.
Okay, I'm starting to get it.
It's not about being perfect.
Right.
It's about figuring out what best means for you.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's
So
personal.
it's about becoming more self-aware,
Uh-huh.
understanding our strengths or weaknesses.
And then using that to make choices that, lead to a more fulfilling life.
a more meaningful life.
Exactly. And it's important to remember
Yeah.
that there are going to be ups and downs,
Oh, for sure.
challenges, triumphs.
It's a journey.
It is. And Podcast and Chill really emphasize this.
What?
Like celebrating the small wins,
Oh, yeah.
acknowledging the progress.
Not getting discouraged by setbacks.
Right. Because it's those small steps
Yeah.
that lead to the big changes.
Over time.
They even use this analogy.
Oh, tell me.
It's like a sculptor chipping away at a block of marble,
Okay.
slowly revealing the masterpiece inside.
I love that.
It takes patience, persistence.
And a willingness to keep learning, keep refining.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we need the right tools for the job, right?
Tools.
Yeah. Like Podcast and Chill gives us this toolkit,
Okay.
self-reflection,
Right.
goal setting,
To stay focused.
a growth mindset to face the challenges.
Then positive relationships to support us.
Exactly. It's all connected.
Okay, so if we were to sum up everything from this deep dive,
Yeah.
like one actionable takeaway,
One thing to remember.
yeah, what would it be?
I think it'd be this.
Okay.
Focus on the process,
Okay.
not the outcome.
So not obsessing over some perfect version of ourselves.
Right. But taking those small steps
Consistently
in the right direction.
build those healthy habits.
Embrace the learning.
Surround yourself with good people.
And remember, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
You'll have times when you feel super motivated
Yeah.
and times when you're just like, ugh,
But the key is to just keep moving forward
even if it's just a tiny step.
because those steps add up.
You'll look back and be amazed at how far you've come.
That's the best feeling.
Well, I feel super inspired after this deep dive.
Me too. It was really eye-opening,
Podcast and Chill gave us a lot to think about,
for sure. And I think our listeners are feeling it too.
hopefully. Before we wrap up,
Yep.
I want to leave everyone with a question.
Okay.
What's one small step you can take today?
To start becoming the best version of you,
Could be anything, really.
like making a healthy choice,
Reflecting on your goals.
reaching out to someone who inspires you.
Every journey starts with a single step.
So take that step. Embrace the journey.
Enjoy the process.
We'll be back next time with another deep dive.
Until then, keep learning, keep exploring.
And keep striving to be the best version of yourself.
See you next time.